On a quiet evening in Northern California during the late 1960s, ordinary life was about to be shattered by a figure who seemed to emerge from the shadows. Drivers cruised along dark highways, couples gathered near secluded lakes, and families in small towns carried on with their routines, never suspecting that someone was watching, calculating, and waiting for the right moment to strike. This figure would soon become one of the most infamous names in American history, a person who not only carried out chilling attacks, but also taunted the public with cryptic letters and puzzles, as if daring the world to catch him. Newspapers received strange notes signed with a bizarre crosshair-like symbol, while readers pored over coded messages that promised hidden truths. Fear rippled across communities as the realization grew that this was no ordinary criminal. This was someone who craved recognition, who wanted control, and who reveled in turning his crimes into a terrifying game. As the months passed, whispers spread from Vallejo to San Francisco, and the name Zodiac etched itself into the American consciousness. Parents locked their doors earlier at night, police officers worked under mounting pressure, and amateur sleuths began chasing clues that seemed to lead everywhere and nowhere at once. What began as a series of isolated attacks was quickly becoming a legend in the making, one that continues to haunt investigators, historians, and true crime enthusiasts to this very day. In the early hours of December 20th, 1968, a quiet evening in Vallejo, California, would become the setting for a crime that would mark the beginning of a chilling legacy. David Faraday, a 17-year-old high school student, and his girlfriend, 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen, had parked on a secluded stretch of road, a spot that seemed perfect for a private moment away from the lights and noise of town. But what should have been an ordinary teenage outing ended in tragedy. Both were shot at close range, leaving the community stunned and law enforcement scrambling for answers. This brutal incident was not only shocking for its suddenness, but also for the eerie precision with which it was carried out. Police investigators noted the lack of evidence left at the scene: no fingerprints, no clear footprints, no immediate clues pointing to a suspect. The randomness of the attack, combined with the choice of a remote location, hinted at a calculated approach that was beyond ordinary criminal behavior. As officers pieced together the events of that night, it became clear that the killer had a disturbing pattern in mind, preying on young couples in isolated areas, striking quickly and leaving little trace behind. The community of Vallejo, once peaceful and unassuming, was now gripped by fear, unsure when or where the next attack might occur. Law enforcement, though determined, found themselves facing a criminal who seemed to operate in shadows, showing no remorse and leaving behind only the chilling aftermath of his first confirmed victims. This night would set the tone for a series of attacks that would baffle authorities for years and cement the Zodiac's place in the dark corners of American criminal history. By July 4, 1969, just over 6 months after his first known attack, the Zodiac struck again, this time targeting another young couple in Vallejo. Darlene Farron, a 22-year-old waitress, and her friend Michael Mayhew, 19, were parked in a quiet lot when the assailant approached. Shots rang out in the night, leaving Darlene fatally wounded while Michael miraculously survived. His injuries were severe, but his account would prove invaluable. For the first time, law enforcement obtained a clear description of the killer: a white male, medium build, approximately 5'8" to 5'10", with an ordinary appearance that betrayed nothing of the chilling intentions behind his actions. Just days later, the Zodiac escalated the terror by sending a letter to the Vallejo Times-Herald, claiming full responsibility for the attack. Enclosed within this letter was his first cryptogram, a complex puzzle that he dared police and the public to solve. The message was both sinister and calculated, revealing a mind obsessed with control, manipulation, and public attention. As newspapers published the letter and details of the attack, the fear that had once been localized began to spread across Northern California. Communities that once felt safe now locked their doors at night, and conversations about strange vehicles, shadowy figures, and the unseen predator became commonplace. The killer's notoriety grew not just through his actions, but through his ability to reach into the minds of ordinary citizens, turning curiosity, fear, and fascination into a shared, paralyzing anxiety that would continue to grip the region in the months and years to come. Following the attacks that had already gripped Northern California with fear, the Zodiac began a new form of psychological warfare that would haunt investigators and the public alike. Between 1969 and 1974, he sent a series of letters to multiple newspapers, each one carefully crafted to provoke, confuse, and terrorize. These letters were never ordinary. Many contained intricate ciphers and cryptograms, seemingly random symbols and letters that challenged anyone who dared to decode them. The messages were more than simple threats, they were puzzles meant to engage the mind while spreading fear, each one taunting police and readers alike. Some of the letters included riddles, self-aggrandizing claims, and sinister promises of future attacks, creating a sense that the Zodiac was always one step ahead, observing from the shadows and controlling the narrative from afar. Out of the 4 major ciphers he sent, only 2 have ever been fully decoded, and even these revealed texts that, while alarming in context, was disturbingly ordinary in content. The other 2 remain partially unsolved, continuing to baffle amateur sleuths and professional cryptologists alike, holding secrets that might finally identify the killer, or perhaps never be solved at all. As each new letter hit the presses, the Zodiac's notoriety grew exponentially. Communities that had once felt isolated from danger now faced a nameless, faceless threat that reached into their daily lives through the media. The combination of real-world violence and cryptic correspondence created a tension unlike anything California had experienced before, and it was clear that the Zodiac was no ordinary criminal. He was a master of psychological terror, leaving a trail of fear and mystery that would endure for decades. As 1969 unfolded, the Zodiac's reign of terror escalated, spreading fear across Northern California with a chilling combination of randomness and brutality. While investigators could confirm that he had killed at least 5 people, the letters he sent to newspapers claimed far more, suggesting a body count of up to 37, a number that both fascinated and horrified the public. Each new attack seemed to come without warning, striking at different locations and in unpredictable ways, leaving communities on edge and authorities desperate to find a pattern. One of the most notorious attacks occurred in September 27, 1969, at Lake Berryessa, where Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were enjoying a quiet afternoon. The Zodiac approached, armed and masked, and stabbed them multiple times. Brian survived, but Cecilia tragically succumbed to her injuries 2 days later, a loss that shocked the area and brought national attention to the case. Barely a month later, on October 11, 1969, the killer escalated his boldness, entering a San Francisco taxi and shooting the driver, Paul Stein, in the head. This brazen act in the middle of a busy city signaled that no one was truly safe, whether in secluded countryside or urban streets. The randomness of these attacks, the timing, the locations, and the victims' profiles created an atmosphere of constant anxiety. People began altering their routines, avoiding isolated roads, and keeping a watchful eye on strangers. The Zodiac's ability to strike without warning, combined with his cryptic communications to the public, cemented his status not just as a murderer, but as a figure of psychological terror whose presence seemed to loom over Northern California long after the first shots were fired. As the Zodiac's attacks continued to haunt Northern California, law enforcement faced a mounting challenge in trying to bring him to justice. From the late 1960s through the early 1970s, police investigated dozens of potential suspects, carefully examining alibis, backgrounds, and any possible connections to the murders. Among the most closely scrutinized was Arthur Leigh Allen, a man who fit several aspects of eyewitness descriptions and had a history that raised suspicions. Despite intensive investigation, including interviews, searches, and forensic testing available at the time, no charges were ever filed, leaving the case frustratingly unresolved. The investigation was complicated by several factors. The Zodiac operated across multiple counties, striking in Vallejo, Napa, and San Francisco, which required coordination among different law enforcement agencies, and effort often slowed by limited communication and resources. Physical evidence was scarce, with the killer leaving few clues at each scene, and eyewitness accounts were often inconsistent, providing only fragmented glimpses of the man behind the mask. These obstacles made it nearly impossible to build a concrete profile or directly link any suspect to all of the attacks. Even decades later, the case continued to draw attention. Amateur investigators, true crime enthusiasts, and even professional sleuths have pored over letters, crime scenes, and old reports, bringing modern techniques like DNA analysis, forensic genealogy, and digital reconstruction into play. These methods have yielded promising leads in some instances, but despite advances in technology and renewed efforts, the Zodiac Killer's identity remains officially unknown. The mystery persists, a haunting puzzle that has captured the imagination of both law enforcement and the public for over half a century. By January 29, 1974, the Zodiac sent what would become his final confirmed communication, a letter addressed to the San Francisco Chronicle. In it, he maintained the same chilling tone that had characterized his previous messages, mocking law enforcement, hinting at crimes that may have gone undetected, and taunting anyone who thought they could catch him. After that letter, all correspondence ceased. The Zodiac vanished from public view as suddenly and mysteriously as he had appeared, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions, cryptic puzzles, and lingering fear. Even decades later, the case continues to grip the imagination of the public. Books dissecting his letters, documentaries exploring his attacks, and films inspired by his methods have kept the legend alive. True crime enthusiasts and amateur investigators revisit the letters and ciphers, hoping that advances in technology, from DNA analysis to genealogical research, might finally reveal the identity of the man who so carefully manipulated terror. The Zodiac's calculated approach, the targeting of victims, the public taunting, and the intricate ciphers has left a lasting mark on American culture, symbolizing one of the most enigmatic and haunting crime sprees in history. His shadow lingers in communities, law enforcement circles, and popular imagination alike, a reminder of a figure who turned fear itself into an instrument of power, and whose true identity may never be fully uncovered. As we look back on the chilling trail left by the Zodiac Killer, it is clear that his story is more than a series of unsolved crimes. It is a window into the dark corners of human fascination, fear, and the lengths one mind can go to manipulate a whole community. The letters, the ciphers, and the randomness of his attacks created a mystery that has survived decades, captivating generations and challenging both law enforcement and amateur sleuths to this very day. While the Zodiac himself may have vanished, the questions he left behind continue to echo, urging us to think, to investigate, and to remember the stories of those whose lives were forever changed. Every clue, every theory, every attempt at decoding his cryptograms reminds us how a single person can leave an enduring mark on history, one that lingers long after the streets have quieted. If you found this journey into one of America's most infamous mysteries fascinating, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our deep dives into the world's most intriguing unsolved cases. Join us as we uncover the stories that history tried to hide, piece together the puzzles that still haunt investigators, and explore the mysteries that continue to grip our imagination. Every view, every comment, every share helps keep the conversation alive, and who knows, maybe one day, with enough curiosity and attention, even the most enduring mysteries will finally reveal their secrets.